episode of UAP Disclosure tonight. No countdown or anything. We have too much to talk about and too many people to say hi to in the chat room. We want to start off this chat and welcome Mr. Catfish 2100. Great having you come to the show. We're going to go on right. So, I've done it again here. And give me a second here. I've got myself playing in the background somewhere. I'll find it here. There we go. That's much better. All right, now where the heck was I? I'm sorry, Jack Hatfield. It's quieted down just a little bit. All right. Here. Oh, no wonder why it's so loud. Now, where was I? Star Hunter, welcome to the show. Mr. Catfish 2100, welcome to the show. Blue Chicken 2100, where's Duncan? Chat scrolling fast. Ack. Jack Hatfield, I know the music was too loud. I am so sorry about that, guys. Mr. Catfish 2100, yes, this is going to be an amazing interview. A Hippocratic Oath, welcome. I think you're one of Kerry's friends. And welcome to the show. Glad you can make it here tonight. Weird Diamond, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you here. Tell you what, Weird Diamond, I'm going to go ahead and make you moderator right now. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. So, on that note, let me turn some music down here. Let me bring out Greg. Greg, my friend, how you doing?
Good, how are you, sir?
Oh, doing great. We got people saying remove the music, and I am going to remember to turn on echo cancellation, so everything's going to sound beautiful for everybody. We got a great show here tonight. We've got Kerry Cassidy, which is an amazing person. She's done so many things in the past, and if I had closed on my window that had my description of what I was going to talk out for Kerry, well, let's just bring out Kerry while I bring that up. Kerry, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Let me find what I'm going to go ahead. I'm supposed to say about you here. And I can go ahead and introduce you to everybody. I'm sure you've got a lot of people here that know you already. A bunch of people here don't know you. So I want to give you the introduction you deserve. Let me bring that across a little bit so I can actually see it. All right. Kerry Cassidy is the CEO and founder of Project Camelot. She's a documentarian, filmmaker, investigative journalist, and well-known host of Project Camelot TV, which is broadcasting live shows on YouTube. Broadcasting live shows on YouTube. She's interviewed over 1,000 people over the past 16 years on both radio and video, available some on YouTube and Project Camelot, and I believe she also has some stuff up on. I can actually get the name of the platform here. My mind
Odyssey.com.
Odyssey.com. Thank you. I was just about to see the app. And is a leader in the alternative media sector. Project Camelot, now YouTube, which has now been deleted by and banned by YouTube, had over 70 million unique viewers worldwide and 312,000 subscriptions for over 16 years. Due to censorship, which we know kind of happens on YouTube, so we have to kind of watch of how we're saying and how we're going to get there. All of our videos are now available on the Project Camelot library and on the Project Camelot website and Odyssey.com. Kerry has become a widely known broadcaster and travels the world, which we'll hear some about today, conducting interviews and documenting testimony of whistleblowers with above top secret clearances, as well as authors, researchers, experiencers covering conspiracies, the secret space program, black projects, ETs, Kundalini, and Ascension and free energy. And she's got a really great view on the source energy that we're all collected and a part of. Her yearly Awake and Aware conference that's held in the United Kingdom has produced a number of Vimeo video packages that are available for view. See Kerry's recently released book, Rebel Gene, Secret Space and the Future of Humanity, available on Amazon. And I'm going to go ahead and pin that link to the top of the chat to make sure everybody can go ahead and get it. To say you have had an amazing career, Kerry, would be an understatement. Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I've heard most recently and everything else before we kind of, get everything started into it. You've been traveling lately, haven't you?
Yes, I was in Greece, and for a vacation, I try to take a vacation once a year at least, because I work 24/7. It's kind of a crazy life. But so that was fun in the sun, and actually some strange happenings.
Yeah, there's been a ton of protests over there, haven't there? There's been a lot of the civil populations, I'd say almost 100% in a lot of areas, have been out protesting in the streets, haven't they?
Well, actually, that was a wonderful surprise, but not such a surprise, because when we were there, the protests hadn't really started. So, but we were warned by the local people that if the government went ahead with certain things, that we should be on guard. That Monday, they were going to hit the streets, and sure enough, they really did come out in mass. And then, of course, they got hit by the fires. So that's Illuminati weather wars payback. And you can imagine that the Greeks are very used to this kind of thing. There's a rivalry going all the way back in time to the Romans. The Greeks and Romans always being somewhat at odds with each other. You could say that in some ways the Greeks are descended from the Pleiadians, and the Romans have reptilian DNA. So there's where you get the rivalry, if you want to get into that. And so I was in Greece, and actually, excuse me, my suitcase was waylaid. It didn't make it to Athens from LAX until 3 days later. By the time it got there, my laptop had been broken into and hacked. So I got a cyber guy that's an expert to advise me, and a few other people weighed in, basically saying I had to do, for all intents and purposes, wipe it, destroy it, and throw it away. So that's what I did. It was about 4 years old, and I do have my main computer at home, so it wasn't like such a tragedy. But why they wanted my computer, why they sort of scammed and schemed to get it, which even started at the LAX airport, I don't know, but they did. And it wasn't Apple. They do say that when you get hands-on, oh, sorry about this. I have to get my dog. Sky. Anyway, just whatever I was saying about the computer. So any questions, you're welcome.
You're muted. You're muted.
Hush up, honey.
You're muted.
What?
No, I'm telling him we can't hear him.
Okay. Oh.
I had a question about the reptilians. Are they the ones who came here first, do you think, who were basically keepers of the gate? And they're basically the bad part of the whole ET phenomenon?
Well, there's a lot more so-called bad ETs than that. There are many good ones as well. What we call good and bad is actually a bit of a prejudice point of view, because we see somebody as good if they mean us well. But keeping in mind that every race of beings has their own sort of agenda and are looking after their own sort of well-being. If you are sort of not aligned with their mission, then we might view them as bad, but they might not be, negative per se. So, but in the case of the reptilians, they're by and large, they're still a very negative race, although they do have renegades that have gone over to the light. And that's true of the Draco, the snake beings, and so on. So there's more than one type of reptilian as well.
Yeah.
So it's a real mixed bag, and the grays are reptilians. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, I had no idea. No. I didn't know they were reptilians. Are they just representing the reptilians, or?
Well, no, you can kind of look at them, see that their DNA is reptilian.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, they're sometimes they're a mixture, a hybrid, as it were, but some of them are, programmable biological entities, as you may know. And in that case, they used reptilian DNA to kind of create them, I think, in almost every case.
Yeah. I had no idea. It's interesting to, there's a lot of different races, but there's not a lot of information out there. That there is some information that's out there on it, but it's just a matter of being able to find the right sources and people to talk to get to the details on it.
Yes.
I find it interesting too that the steward on Kennedy's plane at the time had the conversation about the paper, and he basically asked Kennedy if he believed in ET. Do you ever remember hearing this conversation about the story?
Well, we do have a witness that talked about that. Yes.
Right. And so what I'm trying to get at is there a more bigger connection to Kennedy and ET than what we know?
Yes, I would say so. In fact, sorry, I don't know. My dog is starting to get very active here. I might have to close the door. So anyway, yes, Kennedy, the Kennedy family. In fact, it's there's reason to believe that actually to do with Q and the whole movement, that what we're really having in terms of a split on planet Earth does involve ET races and different ETs or groups being aligned with different ET groups. And and so I don't think it's out of the question to consider that Kennedy was aligned with certain ET groups.
Right.
Most certainly the Pleiadians, I would say.
Now
and
I know
possibly others.
Going back in time, turning the time machine back in 1954, Eisenhower supposedly had 2 meetings initially with ETs. First, there was one meeting with one race where they wanted us to go ahead and, stop being on our path of nuclear destruction, stop polluting the Earth, stop raping the Earth's natural resources, and to come and live in harmony. But as part of it, they kind of went and if you want to call it, backed away and didn't want to give us their tech to go ahead and get away from nuclear. But then bringing up the Greys, he I guess supposedly went and met with Greys, and were able to make a deal for it where the aliens wouldn't interfere in our affairs. We wouldn't interfere in theirs. We would keep their presence on Earth a secret. They would furnish us and develop us with technology that would help with our technological development. But coming out of that, we would allow them to take people and abduct them and do experiments on them, and basically the abductions and everything we have going now.
Well, yes, I think that's kind of in a nutshell, but I would say that it's important to realize that there were many treaties made with the various races, and probably all of them were broken somewhere along the line.
Probably by us, I would say.
By them, by the ETs. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it was almost impossible. It is almost impossible to get at least certain races to stick with the treaty. And of course, the Oceanidine Guardian races are races that look after this seeding of humanity in a positive way, but they have basically, they're dealing with what they call the Luciferian rebellion, which are groups of races that have broken the treaties. And for example, a lot of people don't realize that races such as the Galactic Federation races, many of them have broken the treaties as well. And so they're no longer working on behalf of humanity if they ever were. So it's a constant moving target from what I understand.
Yeah. If they can break treaties, then why are we still here even? It doesn't sound like we should even still be here. It's like they could wipe us out real quick. Why haven't they done that yet, I wonder?
Well, that's not how the sort of megaverses work. It doesn't behoove them. First of all, it's a complex story, but as you may know, we're a food source, number one. Number two, they use us to trade for slaves and sexual slaves and so on. So, there's no reason to get rid of us. Why not have us, here and existing? It's simply that we are used and abused. It's kind of more like that. That's where the broken treaties come in. And then where humans rank on sort of, if you will, a hierarchy of races, and some races having kind of dominance, if you will, and such as the Anunnaki trying to control Earth and humans. At the same time, there are other races like the reptilians, like the Draco, you know, like some incoming races that are more diabolical in some ways, like the gosh, what are they called? Well, they're kind of like the moth beings is one way of looking at them, and then there's also well, there's just a lot of them. So spider beings, you know, and there's the alien AI. So, you know, I mean, it's never a dull moment out there.
Yeah, I hear you. We've got from, let's see, where did that go? From Sydney McFadden, I believe, in the chat. She had a question for you here, or bringing something up, saying that POTUS/world leaders are all related in the inbred bloodline tree and serve their long planned, quote, selected role on this manipulative and illusionary world stage.
Well, there is a lot of beings that are, you know, people that are in the various echelons of power that are related. In the end, if you want to say all of humanity is related, so, you know, you could get to that point. Although there are certain bloodlines that sort of have tried to stay pure, wouldn't be the right word, because in the end, there's mostly hybrids. But I think that the reptilians try to keep themselves so-called reptilian pure. And as far as, you know, the Kennedys are related to other groups out there that are in power positions. Then, of course, the Queen of England and the whole German basis for their race of, you know, which has a lot of reptilian.
Right. And that's where they always talk about preserving the bloodline and everything to a degree.
Yes. And there have been stories come out that at some point in underground bases, someone had told Project Camelot that they had seen signs in an underground base saying pure and unpure, in essence, like, so that they would be delineating, you know, who could go where in underground bases at some point, possibly in the future. Possibly.
There's been a lot of talk of underground bases, and I guess if you want to go to a place when you can, if you want to call it, segregate yourself from humanity, but also protect you from the occasional disasters that pop up on the world stage, it's a perfect place to, you know, stay safe.
Yeah, the ocean alone.
Yeah,
good hiding place. He says yes, for sure. But I mean, under this circumstance that we're under, you know, we have progressed a great deal. So surveillance is almost everywhere on the planet. Although I am told that one of the few places that they can actually have meetings and get away with low surveillance is Antarctica.
Absolutely. I know, who was that? One of the former astronauts was recently there, and he just said this place, it's pure evil down here.
Right.
Buzz Aldrin, right?
Buzz Aldrin, I think.
Yeah, they tried to say, oh, he was being sick. He didn't know what he was talking about. And I think he kind of knew what he was talking about based on what he had seen.
Yes, absolutely. I do have contacts with certain individuals who have been down there and reported certain information and so on and so forth. I mean, there is a story that, you know, we did get a book from an individual who was supposedly on the run from New Berlin, the Nazi base down there, and had spent many years there, had escaped, gone to Germany, and tried to reach the Exopolitics Germany group and give them his book, but they were afraid to take it. So somehow it came over to Camelot. We did print it, you know, put it on our website, publish it. I think it's still there. I haven't checked lately. I can say that some of it was sort of discombobulated. It was almost as if the person was writing from more than one timeline, but it's quite a fascinating book. It's very intricate.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of your book, for anyone who's interested, I've also pinned at the top of the chat right over here where I'm kind of pointing out right now is a link to Kerry's book. So if anyone's interested in picking up her latest book, Rebel Gene, it's available on Amazon right now on paperback for $16.99. So be sure to pick it up.
Speaking of timelines, from what all you know, can you pretty much keep going into that timeline, into the present, and almost a little bit into the future, and maybe project on where all this is going? in short, like the, and us and like the ET, well, like in disclosure, I meant to be narrowed down.
Well, it depends on how you want to look at it. I think that there are probably unlimited numbers of timelines, and that new timelines do get created. And we do know that they are working to alter the timelines using CERN, for example, and the portals there, as well as, for what it's worth, linear accelerators can also create portals and possibly timelines. So what I would say is that if you're talking about this one that we sort of feel that we're on at the moment, although this one keeps kind of morphing in a really strange way, what is ahead? I have dreams of the future, but I don't presume to know whether those dreams are going to come true in this timeline. So I could tell you, for example, I've seen the Chinese invade. I've seen the U.S. go into civil war. I've seen positive things as well. I've interacted with Trump and John F. Kennedy Jr., so I know he's alive. And I've spent time. I knew Trump was going to run in 2024. That's still the information I have from, again, a sort of a dream that shows me the future.
Yeah. I asked right before the election, and I said, okay, is Trump going to win? And my answer I got back was 2024. And I'm like, oh, well, that kind of puts us where the election is going to be tomorrow. And sure enough, when the election, the counting was done and the whole thing, I was like, shit. And I told you so. So it's nice to have a higher self that has a sense of humor.
Okay, well, that's good. Yeah. So it hasn't happened yet. So we still have to sort of stand aside for that. And now we're at a really interesting juncture right now, as you may know, because they want to put forward the V passports type thing. And
Yep.
So with that in mind, that could remove most of our freedom. It's already gone down that road.
Yeah.
And
have you seen them burning the V passports in Italy? People walking up one by one on a flyer, putting it out there. I
posted that on my
yeah,
all to my Telegram channel. So, I'm inundated by people sending me stuff. So it's Telegram's been a great invention for me because I can share all the stuff that comes across my desk whenever I want, and then I can add my own commentary and so on and so forth. So if you're interested in Project Camelot and you want to know what I'm seeing and what I'm looking at and what I recommend, you consider. And it doesn't mean that I believe it. It doesn't mean that I'm following it. It just means that, I think it's very important to keep an open mind during these really strange days, and not to say like, no, that's not going to happen, and no, that's not going to happen. I just think that's the wrong attitude. I think that keeping in mind potentialities and living also your own, it's very interesting to me that most people don't realize that even in this moment, okay, time being what it is, all humans have different experiences in time. And so even though someone, I guess, a county away could be having a horrendous time, their house could be on fire, this could be going on that, and you could be having a lovely day, bathing in the sun by the pool. I mean, our lives are very multidimensional, and what we attract to ourselves is very different. So I can say that there's what we call sort of milestones or things that are affecting everyone, like say the V passports. There's still ways that everyone has to deal with certain events. It's just like the masks, some people wore them, some didn't. Some came up with unique ways of dealing with the situation. One friend of mine always drinks something with a straw. So she had one around her neck, but could never quite put it on because she was always too busy drinking her drink.
Yeah.
And she walked all over Vegas like that. So, there's, life is different for people, and people, we are unique beings. We do have the ability to as I say, you know, to change and to attract and so on what we want in our world.
Yeah.
So, and then there's our own destiny. Like you may have a very special destiny in a certain time, and in another time you may kind of be sitting that one out and being more sort of at rest or you know, getting your energy together and such.
Or you may have something from a prior life that is an unbelievable, you know, part of you that kind of bleeds through into another life that you need to take that and leverage those tools to be able to get down that task you need to get done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just from my little aspect, since I was abducted at the age of 5 and dealt with grays back then, and that went on for 3 years, and I had subsequently worse and worse autoimmune problems with my lower bowel and everything that just got completely out of control. And all of a sudden, after I started with Silva Mind Control back in when I was about 8 years old, 3 years into it, and I was able to get more control up in my mind, I was able to kind of, the abduction stopped. But coming out of that is just when I was started up with Silva, I found I have a phenomenal ability with the crown chakra that most people just don't have. And beyond that, and the older I've gotten, the stronger it gets. And it's not just the crown, which is that bright purple energy that you've got. I'm able to wield and bring in unlimited white energy from the source, which is for me is just a gift for doing visualization, connection, spiritual kind of, you know, high consciousness stuff that you've talked a lot about in the past. It all has a root going back to, if you want to call it Hinduism, or actually Vishnuism to a degree, as well as a lot of the stuff that's been out there in the Law of One.
Sure. Well, everyone has access to this stuff. So different people will access it to a different degree, again, depending on where they're at, what they're actually involved in. You know, a lot of people don't realize, I mean, we are ETs and they are us, and we are genetically related to them, so that, you know, in coming here to Earth in this sort of 3D going into 4D experience, some beings prefer to actually kind of pretend they're not ETs at all. It's kind of a reverse way of looking at it, perhaps, and understanding that they are screening out their sort of, you know, superpowers and abilities simply because they want to experience life on Earth in, you know, its rawest form, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I think that's fascinating, and I think that we're, you know, a lot of us are perhaps very frustrated with types like that, but I kind of have a sympathy and understand those beings because they really want, you know, there's a lot of desire to have what you might call a sensate experience on Earth, you know, using all the senses, etc., and experience, you know, good food, good relationships, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned about good food. We're talking about the ETs feasting on humans. We have between 500 and 600,000 people in the United States alone that go missing. So it's kind of, where do all these people go? And, you know, it's got to be coming out of some deal with something, or someone's going and overstepping their bounds.
No doubt about it. You know, like, say, what is it called? 411. You know, he's very good at documenting that. Mm-hmm. There's also, I've been told by Captain Mark Richards, who I've interviewed now 12 times in prison, that there are, under the cover of war, a lot of human slavery taking place, a lot of humans being taken off planet and disappearing. So there's that going on there as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, we've got the whole bit of disclosure that kind of happened. And there's all this build up to it for about 6-8 months of everyone talking about it. When we hit it, it's a little bit of just information. We had 144 cases that they're looking at going back to 2019. Only one of them was a balloon. All the other 143, they're saying, we don't know what these are, when they clearly do know what they are. What was your take on, you know, what they brought out?
That it was just a dog and pony show, and they basically were, in essence, lying like they always do. You know, as far as I'm concerned, the Tic Tac and all these, they're, you know, I have one witness who claimed that some of those the ones seen off the Nimitz were ours. That we were trying to demonstrate our technology to the Chinese. That's what one witness said. I'm not so sure that's true. That may have been a lie, because intel agents will lie to you when they find it useful, hoping you'll put the information out and you'll believe it. Then there's also the idea that, there's so many visiting races and so many cases they could have, highlighted, and recent ones as well, not just going back to I don't know what it was, 2005 or even earlier than that. I mean, it's to me, it was just ridiculous. And of course, there is the death of UFO sort of researcher and a wonderful designer, a graphic designer of UFO craft and so on, Mark McCandlish, who was killed in a very Illuminati-esque way, being shot in the head, suicided, as we call it, right before that came out. And then, of course, the COVID thing became a major distraction, so that whatever was supposed to happen in June with maybe the Senate having going over that material that they were supposedly looking at, those so-called cases, of which there's hundreds of millions, there's hundreds and hundreds of cases every year, and the military has records, that are far beyond what they demonstrate. So that's a whitewash. That whole thing is a complete whitewash. It's unbelievable, in my view.
Absolutely. And then we've got, if you want to call it, every branch of the military. We've got, who do you call it? Even NASA. Everything right now is all being put through one person for all FOIA requests, Susan Goff. And it's kind of like this is unprecedented, because we have all this information that should be available to us, but we've got one person now who's trying to act as a guardian and prevent as much information from coming out as possible. So there's if you want to call it, we've called the deep state before, is active in, if you want to call it, the Pentagon, trying to keep the information out that should be coming out. And then, have you heard much on that?
Well, I'm sure you're saying. Of course they try not to. Even right now, whether it's true or not, elements of the Pentagon are working with Biden. So they are very energetically, trying to force vaxes on the military. So that's one part of the Pentagon. I'm not sure the exact question that you're trying to ask.
Well, no, it's just that we've got everything. There's just an active part where everyone's trying to keep the information out, like they have. Even the Air Force at this point, who was involved with the two meetings with Eisenhower back in the 50s, they're even part of the, if you want to call it, part of the full disclosure. They're putting their feet down and they're trying to stop any dissemination of any information outside of the Air Force itself. So it just shows it's a deep operation that's going on, that they're trying to keep the info. But then we've got, on the other hand, we've got like Lou Elizondo, who's going and giving a lot of information to a degree. But it's hard to know the total program of what's going on, because there's non-disclosures and things that are in place. But if there really were the number of non-disclosures that should be in place to keep the information from flowing, it just continues to flow. So it makes you wonder, is there something bigger going on? Is it a classic, CIA psyop that we're dealing with in their?
Well, in my view, Lou Elizondo is a fully paid up member of the CIA and possibly DIA, and is basically just parroting what they want him to say, and he doesn't reveal anything new. He talks a lot but says nothing, a lot like Nick Pope, and who's also a mouthpiece. And these guys go way back, and they've been lying to the public since day one. Now, the fact that Lou Elizondo tries to, he comes from that group, to the Stars Academy, and that is a whole group of what we call kind of the usual suspects who have also been involved. They're kind of like a bridge organization, if you will, between the people and the actual, military and secret space program. So they're supposed to, they funnel stuff through them. They test it out and trot it out among the people in various ways. But again, not straightforward. Just really guilty of, in my view, when you drill down into actual cases where Elizondo has been involved, you'll see that, if you follow exactly him sentence by sentence, just like I do some of these people and other certain individuals, like Kit Green and Hal Pudov and Eric Davis, they are part of a group that in a certain sense wants to commercialize what's available that the military will let them have, sort of drip feed into the commercial sector. So they're kind of fascinated by that, and they want to get a hold of that, partially out of interest and partially out of, let's say, financial interest, right? And so there's that. And they get into this whole thing of reverse engineering whatever is available, getting into portal tech. It's called portal technology. And, basically going back to the time of Tesla, things that Tesla was dealing with, but they're like very, very interested in it and very, very obsessed with it, but their real information is never making it to the public. There's just a clamp down on secrecy that's just been mega over the years. And of course, any whistleblowers, and I do specialize in whistleblowers of this type, and a lot of them have died, and some of them have died, that have come to Camelot, and some we don't know if they've been killed. Some, for example, like Pete Peterson died a couple of years ago. We don't know for sure that his death wasn't sort of pushed along. I know they killed his wife to shut him up. So, there's a lot of different aspects to this. And when you've been in this game as long as I have, you become very, I guess, sort of skeptical of anything that comes across your desk. And yet at the same time, I have to use my intuition to determine if there is something worthwhile to whatever it is. And a lot of people also don't understand that within getting some good information, you can have some disinfo. It's in there. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a game. It's a real game on planet Earth. And unfortunately, they are still killing whistleblowers. So this is actually very concerning that, again, going back to Mark McCandlish, there was actually, I think the person, I think who was a filmmaker or journalist that worked with Mark, also died in strange circumstances. If you start to add up these stories and go back, you can look at all the microbiologists who died associated with Marconi and black goo and all of that. That's a whole saga, and that continues. Just depends what you want to talk about. And it's just a matter
of, if we're not going and putting off the narrative they want to hear, and they tell us to stop, but we keep on pushing it out, there's ways to make us stop to a degree.
Yeah, they also mess with all of us. Camelot, I just got my website completely hacked and taken down.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
And I was also, that was last week. And by coincidence, it was a week later from the hack on my computer. So maybe they were related, maybe they weren't, who knows? The other thing was that I was trying to advocate this Patrick King information that he went before the courts in Alberta and basically had them prove, in essence, that they didn't have the real data on the what's in the so-called
shots
the virus, whatever you want to call it. I know we're trying to stay on YouTube here, so most people are not used to seeing me mince my words. But anyway, and so, that attacks continue. And I can also say that I have had, multiple things go on and continue to, and then my witnesses have also, and some of them, if you want to ask me about them, it's fine. But I can say that, some of them clearly have been killed, had early deaths.
Yeah.
Like Gordon Neville, for example, who's trying to create, release the ARV to the public, and was getting very fed up with the CIA and trying to work with them. They were running him around in circles. So he had called me like practically the night before he died. We had a conversation in which he said he was going to go to the Saudis with his information. And of course, then a day or two later, he died after going in the hospital with a toe injury, of all things. So, these kind of things are continuing to go on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just
I got Marley
about effects and different things that go on from the V and stuff like that, that there are people getting the stuff into their arm. My mom was 88. It was a birthday. She was recovering fine from a broken hip. She got, they came to the hospital and gave her little dose per se. Within 4 days, she couldn't walk and couldn't talk and was started suffering issues with blood clots and if you want to call it mini strokes and everything. And it just, from there, it was just cascading one thing with their blood after the other, after more issues with their heart and lungs. And it was a matter of, 6.5 months later. Actually, it was like 7.5 months later, about 8, and she's gone. Yeah. So it does have consequences.
Very sorry to hear that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was really hard to go through it, but it just shows you that not everything that they're purporting this to be and what it's like, there are consequences, there are things that can happen. And it comes down to what I tell everyone on my channel all the time. You really just can't take for what you're hearing. You have to go out, you have to do the research and look into it and make a decision on your own, and don't get swayed by the media. Because if you're hearing all the different stories all the time about, this person got it or that person got it and passed away and different things because they didn't get to be, the thing is, right now with what's going on, it's an equal amount of people who are getting it, whether you've got it or not. So it's just a matter of, taking care of yourself as you can and just being careful.
Well, I'm not sure being careful is really an option, to be honest. I do think staying healthy is an option. So maybe that's what you mean. But I do think also that, I have a whole theory on this, and that comes from everyone else, and I see it as a transhuman agenda, and they are rolling this out to through nano and AI, and their plan is to turn everyone into cyborgs and or androids.
Oh wow!
So that's what the Luciferian rebellion is all involved in right now, and they've really decided to roll this out in spades. And the graphene nano is it grows and basically takes over your body. So there's that. So I mean, this agenda involves the Illuminati and their plan, that goes back to the days of Hitler, if you want, that he wanted to create a race of Superman, right? Or supermen or super beings. So this is what they're all about. They want to create a space-faring race who won't have the vulnerabilities of humans. And this is, so a lot of people don't realize that this whole thing we're going through right now is all about the future. It's all about what kind of human is going to occupy this planet, whether it's going to be an android race of humans, okay? And that looks like a very good possibility. They may keep a certain amount of, carbon-based humans to, for slaves and for other purposes, food certainly, also to placate the full-blooded, the reptilians and Draco that are running the beings on Earth and so on in power positions. So, it's kind of, it's a mixed bag, but there's a very clear through line, at least as I see it. And a lot of people don't seem to realize it's not just a population elimination program. That's just collateral damage. They want to get rid of the old, the weak, the ones that aren't going to be able to handle it.
Kind of like a big reset almost.
Yes. I mean, it has everything, like everything to do with the secret space program and the plans for planet Earth in the future.
Yeah.
This rollout.
Yeah, back to the stuff. If you just kind of touched on it, I had Dr. Don Dundary from Canada. He was up here about a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about this. And one of the things they found out that is literally, if people are wearing tinfoil hats, not necessarily like this one with foil, but if they're wearing them, it actually took the situation in a lot of people who were having problems with abductions and different things, and made it much more difficult and reduced the occurrences of it, because it was actually blocking the brain waves from getting to it, for them to being able to do manipulation or observation, and made them come physically into the location if they wanted to get the people out. So there is something to it with, the tinfoil hats now. And you also even touched on earlier, what was that on? You were talking about tinfoil hats and there being a lot of disinformation. Yeah, there is a lot of disinformation within ufology, because there's a lot of different things potentially they've been put in there to make us sound like we're a bunch of tinfoil hat wearing kooks, rather than understanding a lot of the stuff that could potentially be there. Because if they fill up the kettle with enough things, you're not going to be able to pick out what's real and what's not.
Sure. Well, there is a guy, I actually have, I don't have it right here at hand, but, I have like a, beanie thing. I don't know what you call it. One of those hats you wear in the wintertime to keep your head warm. So, but it has actually built into the fabric to repel 5G and all that.
Nice.
So I just got it to go through airports. And if I decided, because sometimes I do get targeted and stuff. And I think, so I don't think it's a bad idea to use technology, obviously, at hand to repel some of the targeting and various other control mechanisms.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, if there's simple things we can do, if there's things we can do to prevent ourselves from different things that are happening or from getting exposed to different stuff, it's definitely worth people looking into and seeing if it's something that can work out for them. That's a fact.
Right. Yeah, I think it's funny how people get so mad just by saying the L word, Lou. And people always ask me, they're like, what's your evidence? I'm like, there's only been 7 decades of evidence. You know what I mean? I was like, it's up to you to prove to me. And now, you know what I mean? And it bothers me some point, because it's mainly the people who don't know and had to put up with it for so long are saying this. I'm like, look, you got to be careful is all I'm saying. They get so mad.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I guess you mean evidence of the ET presence. Is that what you're referring
and all the deceit and lies, you know what I mean? I'm talking about what comes with it, Yes. That's what I really meant. Yeah. And it's just nuts. It's like, yeah, it's only been seven decades. So
yeah. And there's
it is. And it's actually mind blowing. I mean, I do try to be sympathetic to people that have no clue whatsoever. What we're really talking about, though, if you want to kind of look at it a little bit differently, is to see that this is a human hybrid, because we're all hybrids and of various combinations of races, right?
Right.
And that this would be a human hybrid that's in denial. Okay, it doesn't remember its heritage. Okay, so you try to remind it, and I mean, I've actually had people say, I don't want to know. Like, we know people that say they don't want to know. You can put it, whatever it is, the evidence right in front of them, and they don't want to see it. They don't want to read it. They don't want to watch it. They prefer, like, I'm not going to name any names, but certain people have said to me that, they like life just like this, like meaning the superficial life, where you get up in the morning, you go to a job, the job's very whatever it is, and then you come home and you watch TV, and then you go to bed, and that's the end of your life, and that's all there is to life, right? Like, they like that. That feels, that's safe, right? And that's why they don't want to let this stuff in. So it doesn't. It actually doesn't behoove you to try to push your your trip on other people so much. Even in these days, you know, I walk by people that are wearing masks out, you know, in nature, you know, beautiful nature. They could be having fresh air, and even their children are masked. And, you know, it breaks my heart. And I think, you know, look how stupid they are. And, you know, they really are stupid. But on the one hand, they're stupid. But on the other hand, they want it to be like that. They have chosen that. And I think having the right to choose is what really matters, you know, the right to be stupid if that's what you want, you know, in your life. You know, every human being has multiple incarnations at any given time. Some say it's 12, some say more, simultaneous incarnations. So if you are coming across a person, I just think it behooves us to, even with the stupid ones, to realize that this may be the stupid version of this person, but they may actually have another version that's, you know, a scientist doing some radical things in another dimension, so to speak. Yeah. Or an ET or whatever, you know. So to kind of that expanded view of reality and of the being in front of you, and that includes children, you know, because there's a tendency for people to see children as victims, right? As nothing but victims. But that's not completely true. You know, these are very intelligent, you know, beings of light that came from other dimensions, that decided to have this experience, that came into your family or whatever. But that's not their ultimate destiny, you know. And so just understanding that in a bigger way, it can help to understand what is really going on here on a deeper level, I think.
Sure. I love the stories of the children who can recall their past lives. And you know what I mean? They can go and point out pictures and be like, oh yeah, you know, they kind of like a police lineup almost. Like, yeah, that's my mom. That's where I went to school. And they figure, yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. That kind of gives you, you know, a real lot of hope.
Dr. Carmen Bolter, who's a renowned Egyptologist, she feels she had a prior life in Egypt, and when she went back there, she knew exactly where something was, and she went into the ground and started uncovering it, and was able to uncover this huge complex that nobody knew that was there, but she remembered exactly where it was at.
Yeah, wow. You know, I've interviewed her at the pyramids, as a matter of fact, and I traveled with her. Yeah, in Egypt, and I lead tours of Egypt now too, and I can say that I have had many past lives in Egypt, and I've also done that. Have even also with like other past lives, like in England, and you know, I've like, for example, in this this one place in Paris, I it's this huge palatial, what's it called? Okay, I'm just drawing a blank. Anyway, and I was walking through this, you know, very ancient building with a friend, and I basically said, and right over there is the chapel, and there was nothing to indicate there was a chapel there, but all of a sudden we turned the corner and there's a sign that this is where the chapel was, you know. Oh wow! So I have done that actually many times in various structures, even back in a castle in England. The castle was burned down, I guess, and so all there is the ruins on the ground kind of thing, but it's still in the, you know, place where it was. And I was walking around with a friend of mine, and I said, oh, and this is where the kitchen is. You know, I just remember that's where the kitchen is. And then we go around the corner again, and there's a sign, this is the kitchen, you know. So, you know, this kind of knowledge also that kids have, like Bariska, you know, for those of you who know Project Camelot, you know, that Bariska was the boy from Mars who had total past life recall of his life on Mars before he came to Earth, and used to go up and down his Russian town talking to the townspeople about his prior life as a pilot and soldier in Mars, and what happened to Mars, and how they tried to make Jupiter into a second sun. And Buriska became a very famous story, but we actually flew to Russia and interviewed him in person right when he was on the edge of his teens. Now that was many, many years ago, and he's well into his 20s, if at least in his 20s, you know, so yeah,
Wow.
past lives are an incredible thing. And I think you can learn so much about yourself and the world by exploring that side of, you know, all those sides of your personality.
When I was a young child and I learned how to do out of body in the Silver Mind Control, this is going back to probably 76 or 77, when it was still called Silver Mind Control back in those days. And they taught us how to leave the body. And then you would first go up, leave the body, go up and go through the first door. When I would go through that first door, I would go through almost what felt like a banquet hall. And it was all these shadows of people from different periods of time. But it felt like I was at a wedding reception or a family reunion, and I felt like I belonged, and the people near there knew who I was, and it didn't feel bad or evil and everything. And the more the time went on, the more that I got to see going through this, because I would go through this first door, go through the space where all these entities were, and then go through the next door to my next stuff that I was moving on to. But what I kind of see in my older days and looking back at it is these shadows of my former self or my future self, to a degree, were all there welcoming me, greeting me as I was coming into this particular realm before I moved on to the next part. And it was just such a special time being able to go through that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, when I travel, you know, I do have past life recall. The place will evoke the memories.
Right.
And, you know, so, you know, whether I like it or not, actually. So
yeah, it just kind of pops out into your head, and then you have this stuff of the information that's there. And for me, I can recognize it at my age. I'm 53 now, and I know the voice. I know where it's coming from to a degree. And as I'm sure you've learned time and time again, when the information comes, you know it's right.
Oh yeah. You know, what resonates, what, you know, if you have also another clue is if you have a very strong emotional response. Yeah, that can often tell you like the direction to go and to, you know, that there's something there for you.
Absolutely. Now, if we could talk for a little bit, I know you've delved a lot into the source energy and our connections for it and everything to a degree through a spiritual level, spirituality, consciousness level. Do you want to touch on that?
Well, I connected my chakras when I was in my early 20s and had multiple Samadhi experiences since then. And I continued to have those experiences throughout my life, really. So that was a blessing. And I did that on purpose. You know, I did it through meditation and I did it on my own. I had a fascinating sort of, if you want to call it a source dream. I mean, I don't differentiate because I think, you know, obviously everything's from source. So, but at any rate, it was a fascinating sort of, I don't know, kind of a discussion with somebody and about, in essence, you know, leaving the body and having, you know, because people are so kind of concentrated on the physical body, like being your limit, right? So a lot of people living in the kind of, again, this 3D reality. And in this particular dream, I was just talking to somebody about how, you know, easy it is to expand your horizons and to go beyond the body and to, you know, you take your light body with you, whatever you want to do. But the thing is that it was very graphic. Like I saw it, you know, like I was very, part of everything again, you know. So it was funny because it was more like a Samadhi experience that I have in my waking life. And in this case, it was happening in my dream life. Yeah. So,
I learned Samadhi a couple of years ago. I finally picked it up, and I was watching Awaken the World film on YouTube, and I just went through it several times, and I was able to go ahead and open up the third eye and just, you know, basically it's, for me, it's almost like you're crossing your eyes to a degree, and where the overlap is of the image, it's like you're pulling open reality to that degree, and you're connecting on a much different level. And going through that and opening my mind and focusing on the breath, And then I was able to do a combination of Samadhi with the chakra meditation, where I could start bringing up the energy fields and the visualizations in the eyes open state, which was something I had never been able to achieve before.
Fair enough. Yes, you can meditate with your eyes open. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was my next question too. As far as astral projection, is that something you have to learn or something you're born with? Can everybody do that?
Well, I have a little bit different view of that than you see in books. Actually, yes, of course, everyone leaves their body. Everyone has that ability. The more developed you become and the more your light body gets developed in this life, it becomes more of a vehicle to where you can come and go and sort of be intact, if you will, and less threatened by that process. So, I think that, yes, you can teach yourself this process on your own. You can use a book, like it sounds like, Thomas has done, but, it just kind of depends. And some people, it's very spontaneous and it happens like as a child and so on and so forth. And I think it's a lot more fluid than a lot of people like to go, okay, remote viewings here and, telepathies here. And like they put lines between everything, but actually, it's not like that. And I've even talked to remote viewers, like there's some remote viewer teachers out there that say psychics are really bad remote viewers. And then they try to say that, oh, remote viewers only do this. And then you talk to remote viewers and they're like, I'm all over the place. I do everything under the sun. And, and so, I think that it's important to realize that the limitations are actually mental limitations people impose on themselves and others, but I wouldn't fall for it. It's really up to you and you decide. But as experience, and it all flows and it's all one in essence. Yeah. So I think there's some people like limitation. It works for them. Other people don't. It's just like everyday life. Some people work from the inside out. Some people tend to work more from the outside in, that kind of process.
Yeah.
And you can go either way. Eventually you get to the same place. So. Yeah.
I just have to bring this up because this is interesting. I've been seeing it going on at different things. I'll have my channel will go up in subs and everything to a degree. And then all of a sudden, poof, all the subs are gone. A lot of them that have came on. And we were up to 855. And now all of a sudden, boom, we're back to 829 again. It's like 26 subscriptions were just yanked out of the account. I have no idea what they're up to, but it sounds like YouTube to me.
Well, is this something happening right this minute or something that's
it just happened a couple within the last minute or two.
Oh, really? That's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, weird shit does especially during these, interviews that I've been involved in and stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you if you're recording in more than one way, because when you do an interview, you spend a lot of energy, right?
Yeah.
It's very concentrated. And so if it disappears, it's like, it's like work that has just gone,
Yeah.
And so it's very dismaying when that happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, you work hard for something, you try to put stuff together, and then you get it there, and all of a sudden it's deleted. And if you don't have that backup, you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's it's desperate. That's just a very destructive kind of thing that they can do. And I just So anyway, but I don't know what's going on with your channel right now.
No, I'll figure it out. Maybe they'll magically disappear. I'll reappear later tonight. Who knows? But either way, we're having a killer conversation here. Just to reset, so everyone knows, we're about an hour into this. We're talking with Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot. She's here with Greg and myself, talking about a lot of the things she's been involved in, and in her involvement as a journalist and researcher and producer for over 16 years, right?
Yeah, going on 17 at this point.
Yeah. And, we've had a great conversation so far, talking about some delving into consciousness and second lives and a whole bunch of just different topics. If we could get back a little bit more to Egypt, what's your, we have involvement from Ra that's been kind of, if you want to call it, talked about in the Law of One and such. What do you see as the past for Egypt?
Well, I have a lot of, I tend to resonate with Akhenaten, Nefertiti, and Amarna, which is, of course, what Carmen Balta talks about.
Yeah.
And I did go to Amarna with her group, and there's not much there now, but you can clearly see that a nuclear weapon was let loose in that area. And I actually started to move through timelines when I was there. This does happen to me when I go to certain places that really resonate, or I probably lived. And so I had a really amazing sort of meditation with two other guys that were on the trip. And I fell into this, I can't even explain what it was. It was almost like, it was like a dream, but it was real. And I went into the time of Akhenaten, and I don't know if it's true or if it was just because you can see through the eyes of someone else. I was in a room that was Nefertiti was pacing back and forth. She was wearing this light blue gown, and all of us were there, and I was seeing through the eyes of one of her daughters, and there was a decision that had to be made, and I saw all of Amarna, and I saw the beautiful jungle that was there, and it was so real to me that when I came to, I couldn't make sense of the reality I came into. I thought this was the fake reality, and that was real. That's how strong it was. It was unbelievable. And I've had a few of these really significant times happen to me in my life, that kind of thing, where I somehow go into, whether it's a dream reality where I'm actually, sort of sleeping in a dream, or in a meditation where, like once I saw a Draco, the Shakar, fly by me interdimensionally when I was in a meditation, but sort of coming in and out. And so I was very conscious. I was sitting up. I wasn't sleeping or anything. So, I mean, I'm just saying that, in terms of Egypt, I see it as, personally, I see it as a real place. And in fact, I have Egyptians tell me that I look Egyptian, like they say, you're one of us. And that's really very interesting and fun. I don't know, I can say, I mean, what do you want to know? I've also, we've made documentaries on my trips. I think we have 2 or 3 documentaries now of Egypt, and people really like them a lot. So if you haven't seen the Project Camelot documentaries of Egypt, they're really amazing and sort of magical, because going to Egypt is a magical experience, and I highly recommend them. They're not real long, like I think a half hour or something like that is the longest one, but they're on my channel. So they're on not only my website, so you could just search like Egypt, or you can go onto odyssey.com and search Egypt there. It's best when you do searches to use one word rather than multiple words. That way it keeps it open. You get as many choices as possible. But so anyway, I can say that we've made excellent documentaries of Egypt that people have really raved about. And you really get a sense of what it's like if you haven't been there. And they're different than your average documentaries out there. So
I would like to know, you're muted, Thomas. I would like to know more about the nuke.
Oh yeah, okay, got that really quick. Yeah, sorry about that. Have you seen about Carmen's recent discovery that she had went and looked at of the people who had found the Egyptian tomb in Turkey a couple of years ago? Have you seen it? And it's basically, it looks like the Nefertiti's treasure cache that when she, if you want to call it, fled Egypt at that time, they went up to Turkey and built a tomb into the side of a mountain.
Well, that's very interesting. No, I haven't heard about that. I'd like to find out about that. I have done some exploring of Turkey and Göbekli Tepe, and made a documentary of Göbekli Tepe that I highly recommend as well. What was your question? You were saying about you wanted to know more about the nuke. The Middle East has been nuked. There have been war of worlds between various ET and human civilizations going back to the Sumerian tablets and before that. Okay, so the Middle East is a fascinating place if you've ever been there. You can go to certain areas that look like, you know, they're like from another planet or something. They look very otherworldly, and there is evidence, I believe, of nuclear, you know, wars. You know, they call them the electric wars. I think Ashwin calls them.
Actually, what I can do here is, let me, if you haven't seen this yet, it's you know, just something. I just get accept here. Let me bring up this window and just show it to you for a second, just to enlighten you on something. And it's something we can share with you. Share a screen. Let's go to a window. Let's bring this up here. So this is if you want to call it, a treasure room that was discovered in the side of a mountain, a rock face in Egypt. And it was one of the guys remembers running around as a child, and then his foot had fallen into a hole. And then after his foot fell into a hole, they pulled it out, and then they looked it down inside. They saw all this gold, and after that, all these snakes kind of came running out of, you know, squirming out of it. So they ran, and he came back as an adult, and he actually went, and they actually found out where this place was at. So there's the crew looking at uncovering the full side of the temple itself, a little bit further away of the rock face and what's behind it. And then they're getting ready to go into it. Where is it at? Hold on. Is that it? It's got to be here somewhere. Oh, here we go.
That's cool.
Yeah. Now there was another picture they had here. If I could try and find it here, I actually wanted to show you the treasure and everything that was inside of it. Here we go. Now these pictures were taken by Carmen when she was there looking at stuff, and it was all basically just filled with all these ancient statues from antiquity. And when they went and did, they pulled back the gold on, because they were basically like gold statues that were gold foil covering wood, and they were able to pull back a piece of the wood, and they found out that all at least that one particular statue dated to over 12,500 years old. So Carmen kind of called it something equivalent to you know, like Mom's China being at the particular location. Let's see if I can find more of this. We got that one. I know there was they actually got the sarcophagus and everything that they showed there too, and it's almost the exact same sarcophagus construction as far as what they had with King Tut. So that's why they're tying it back to Nefertiti at that time. So. Right.
Well, you know, I mean, King Tut is, I think, a lot of disinfo surrounding King Tut, so-called King Tut.
Yeah.
That actually resembles Obama. I have to say that King Tut was a hybrid being and was not necessarily Nefertiti's child.
Right.
And that.
But Akhenaten had the large head, and so did Nefertiti, didn't she?
Yes, but King Tut didn't actually so much. And I have to say that King Tut's, you know, he went back to work with the old priesthood. So he turned against Akhenaten and Nefertiti in essence. And one can see that possibly he was a plant. You know, if you have gone to the Step Pyramid, and right next door is this incredible place, which the name is escaping me at this exact moment, but at any rate, it has these black onyx tombs. They look like they're not like sarcophagus.
Yeah.
Anyway, but what I see them as it happens is actually space pods, and I believe they also look like they're mass produced. And there's way more of them, and they're gigantic, and they're super heavy, and they're all buried underground in these caverns. And you can, you know, we visited them, and they're in my documentary. But what I see is that they fly through space, and I call them space pods. And I don't know why, I just see it like that. And I see that, you know, it's very possible that that's how they brought like a whole race of their beings to Earth.
Almost
is
like
in these
through
space
a jump
pods.
portal or something. If it travels through space and time,
Through
we'll
a
be able to
through a
get to it.
portal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Very interesting.
yeah, and they're, but humans can't hardly, even lift the lid. They can't even lift the lid. They need, tons of humans to just try to lift the lid. And, it's just incredible stuff. So there's also evidence of different civilizations, like, having to do with basically Abydos and Dendera, and two different time periods existing right next to each other in Egypt. So there's these various ones, and there's also these incredible statues that are way larger than any other statues anywhere in Egypt, and they just sort of sit in the middle of nowhere, and I forget the particular area that it is. It's not that far from actually the Hatshepsut's temple, and they're not related to anything else in Egypt, but they look like they came out of. I always think of them as coming out of like something like Star Wars or something. They're unbelievable statues, and there's very little known about them. They're talked about. I think it's quite fascinating, and to me, they represent a group of giants that are not even the very tall, because they do inscribe, like if you go to Luxor and you see the huge, they're very, very tall, those statues, but these are like double that size or triple. It's unbelievable, and you just have to think that, well, wait a minute, where did these come from? Yeah. So Egypt is endlessly fascinating.
Yeah.
I also think that there's a lot of deception. I think they've gone in and changed some of the carvings and various things to put out a certain kind of message to mislead humans about Egypt. So I've delved into that a bit when I'm taking tours there.
A lot of the carvings, when you look at it, it looks like it's just stuff that was added after the fact, like on those giant sarcophagi that you had seen. They're not sarcophagus, and they have all these inscriptions on it, but the way it's so crudely put into the side of it, it doesn't match a lot of the other high technology inscriptions that we have in the place that you said that was blown up earlier by potentially a nuclear bomb, where everything is in this really hard granite and it's all carved in beautifully, perfectly. There's not one imperfection at all. And then you see all this other stuff that's kind of like the mimicry that comes at a later time.
Yes. Well, I think the Valley of the Kings is one area where there's a lot of what I would say drawings and carvings that were added later and there's a lot of repetition but it's not the kind of repetition, for example, that you see in Dendera that's very, sort of organic and tells a story. It's different. It's like almost like somebody came with a cookie cutter and just, kept stamping it over and over again in the king's tombs in that area of Valley of the Kings. So I'm very suspicious about that whole area. Yeah. And what's really going on there and what has gone on there, because I think there's a lot of deception. I think they changed what the stories that are on the carvings.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
When I hear you talk about Egypt, for some reason I just keep thinking it was from a past life or a different Earth from before. That's how that all got there. You think there's any truth to that, or just people before us have done all that, or is it giants like you said?
Well, I mean, there's different dimensions, operating simultaneously right next to each other. So, and there's this, if I'm sure you saw Fringe, the TV series where he goes to the parallel Earth. There's said to be a parallel Earth, where everything is a little bit darker on that side. And then he went and got his son and brought him over. Actually, I know a guy who he thinks maybe that's what happened to Werner von Braun and so on. In other words, there's a lot of sort of time travel aspects when you get into things like Egypt and places like that. And also to do with portals, going interdimensional. So you're not far wrong in thinking like it's another Earth, but it's not quite that cut and dried, I don't think. But I do think you do go through portals. And some of us, I think, tap into those. Like if you have a past life in that area, you may start bleeding into that place and time and see things that other people don't see, in other words.
Right. Someone in the audience had asked if you have any opinions on the schist disc that's from in Egypt.
I may not know it of this name. What are you saying? What kind of disc?
It's called a SHIST disc. I can bring up a picture of it here. Let me share a picture of it. It may be too specific. Where to go now? It should be right here. Come on. There we go. That one. It's something that clearly looks like it's high technology or something, because it's all created from this one really brittle, really hard stone. And there's no way anything like it could have been created by man at that particular point in time.
When was it discovered? Do you know?
Let me bring it up right now. Ancient pages. Someone in the audience might know. A particular object created 5,000 years ago to be part of a component of an ancient unknown advanced mechanism in January 1936 is when they found it. In the plateau edge of North Sarak, approximately 1.7 miles north of the Dozier's Step Pyramid.
That's interesting. 5,000 isn't very old.
No, it's probably much older
so
than
Egypt
that.
Is much, goes way back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's again, this is an Illuminati plant or maybe it's a piece of alien technology that was brought after the fact to the area, because there's a lot of alien interaction. I mean, I have had past life, even dreams of Egypt, in which I saw these pyramid-shaped craft that came down from the sky, and I saw a group of beings, which I guess I thought I was part of, going in by twos into and out of these pyramid ship type being places.
Yeah.
Craft, and I saw that when I was quite young.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't know what I was seeing exactly. Now I can think about it with perhaps more educated brain, but it was very real to me, So I think that, that some of us came here on ships and so on and so forth. And, we don't remember.
Right.
Type of thing. So.
Just saying about pyramids in general. In 2018, when we had that giant pyramid UFO that was over the Pentagon, and then in 2019, when they just released a video recently of the ship getting swarmed by small pyramidal ships, I was like, yes, it's happening, and it's overdue.
Yeah, when I saw those later, more recently, I've seen those pyramid ships, and I thought I basically was the only one who saw that, like I'd seen it in a dream when I was quite young. Again, I never saw, in ufology, they didn't kind of appear until a certain, point in time. There was one over Russia, and they're not very common. So, I was very happy to see that they actually did exist, as a part, not just in my dream vision thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think they're fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a link to our past, and it's definitely a link to, our pyramidal shapes that we have. There is kind of one of those things that's happening. It's just not a coincidence. There's a connection to it, and people just have to open up to it, because even I believe it was the capstone they had from the Great Pyramid, or one of them. I forgot the name of it, but it's actually made of rock that's not from this earth. And it's this huge, fully polished, capstone with all the really high resolution style carvings and everything in it. They kind of tell the story. And it's if that wasn't a smoking gun back then as well, to show you, yeah, look at that. They brought along their favorite rock of their place where they were from, and they ended up placing it on top of the pyramid in either memorial or for a specific use when they put it together.
Right.
One of my favorite things too is what Bob Lazar about how they found a craft in the sand during an archaeological dig. So that kind of like ties it back to Egypt as well.
That's right.
Which is like, you just, you don't even think about that, because I mean, it's not in our human brain to compute. We still think with a human brain with all this, and it's hard to compute. We need to pull the lens back a lot more further if we're ever going to try and look at this problem with like bigger goggles. And it's just amazing to me how we still are just wondering how and why,
Yeah. Well, I can say for those that are interested, the Oceana Dean Voyager books that I do have featured on my website on the front page, if you scroll down on the right side, they're now available. I think both of them are actually available now as ebooks, and they're very cheap.
Yeah.
But you can learn a great deal about the background and history of humanity and all of the various wars of worlds that we've been part of. And if you get into that and read it, then you see life completely differently. And, our whole, everything we've been told about our history is so limited compared to even those books. I mean, the Bible doesn't even tell you the real truth. So,
yeah, there's if you want to call it, little nuggets of information that kind of sprinkle in the truth here or there. Connected with a lot of text too that's made to, if you want to call it, control man, that was written by man.
Troll man.
No, to control man, meaning that.
Oh, to control man.
Yeah, like a form. I mean, if you want to look at it, religion is one of our earliest forms of government to a degree. And they use the word of God and everything else to go ahead and try and control people, where it's more a lot of it's a lot of things that weren't of God to a degree, but it was the words that they were bringing that they wanted to go ahead and tell in some ways to go ahead and control the masses in the way they wanted them controlled.
Yeah, for sure. This stuff goes on. So
absolutely.
I mean, in a sense, it's continuing right this minute. Yeah. Okay, what we're living through is again, efforts to control this seeding of humanity, not to allow us, getting us focused on sort of living in desperate times, so that all you think about are basics, like food and water and this sort of thing, as opposed to being in the higher mind, because they want to lower the frequency of the humans on Earth so that they can control them. Because the higher our frequency, the more we, in essence, spin out of their control.
Yeah.
What's the best way to raise your frequency, your vibration, you think? What, just through how do you do it? What's your practice? Do you practice that?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, because I started meditating when I was quite young, and continue to do so in my life to this day. And also, inviting, I guess you might say, extrasensory experiences, going to places like ancient sites where you can be stimulated by the vortex energy to raise your frequency. That happens at the stone circles and various, incredible ancient sites. That's why they built them, to harness the energy in those sites. And that's true of Egypt as well, and all over the world. So that's one of the things I ended up doing. And now I sort of, as I say, lead tours to these places. And when we're there, we meditate, and go through various things. So, I think also paying attention to your dream life and understanding that that's life, that's real, and following that out, getting to know your what people call their subconscious mind. and just educating yourself in every way, shape, and form, and using healing herbs and natural substances and things of that nature. In other words, I think evolving or re-evolving back to source is simply natural to us. It's part of this package of what we are, what is encased in this body, mind, soul complex for each and every human. It's what is the difference is that we're in an environment that tries to stop that. Okay. Through various methods, bad food, bad water, bad, energy, negativity, now electronic, being battered by electronics of various types. I always try to take time every day to go in nature. Having a dog does facilitate that because they force you to go out. But, taking your shoes off, walking in nature, getting the energy from the earth, just being in touch with those kinds of things can raise your vibration and your frequency. Staying in good health, doing things that you love, anything that you love, anything that brings you joy, it will raise your frequency.
Beautifully said. I like that. That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, that's all. I'll agree with that. It's just you definitely have a great lens that you see everything through, and your experiences just transcend much more than a lot of people are can ever get to, because everyone is always so, if you want to call it, focused on what's going down in front of them in their screen, and they're not able to enjoy any of the things that are around them, let alone be able to focus and be able to get to that state of mind where you have to quiet it and be able to really experience a lot of these things.
Right.
But I do give people the benefit of the doubt. I think that most humans that I've ever met have gifts that are hidden sometimes, but they are definitely tapping into other realities. And, we're all psychic. We all have telepathic abilities. We're all picking up information. You can get information from the strangest places and sources. So, it's not necessarily someone with a college education or someone who speaks well that is going to be tapped into a source, if you will, and get information. So I try to, again, keep a very open mind in that regard. And I think it helps me in my work. It's a non-judgmental kind of thing, understanding that, people have different ways of communicating, and sometimes they're very verbal and sometimes they're not, but sometimes they have something they can give you that comes through music or drawings or paintings or, humans are just endlessly fascinating, really.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just I guess it's all the different connection points that we can possibly have an interaction from that I really didn't even realize before, because for me, it's always, I guess it's everyone is a victim of their own process or their own methods and stuff. And just, we all, again, see it through one particular way, but how you're expressing it, I can kind of see it, because a lot of the composers and everything else, the music would just flow to them and would come to them as they would get into this state of mind. And, where they were almost, if you want to call it, just transcribing this stuff and bringing it out, because like Einstein as well, he had that kind of connection also of knowledge and information that would just flow.
Yes, I mean, I do think that we're all in touch with, higher mind, higher selves, and higher, source energy. And this is actually kind of the threat that we present to beings that are trying to control us, because what we're talking about cannot be controlled. Okay, so it comes and goes and of its own accord, and you can try to attract it, but you're not going to control it completely. And that's the beauty of it. It's a good thing you can't control it. I mean, that's the nature of God or source, if you will. Yeah. And I think, people become vessels through which, all kinds of amazing, creations can come and serve the rest of humanity. So it's just, it's when people try to control and monetize things that things kind of go south a lot. But
yeah. I hear you.
It doesn't have to be that way. It's just the way Earth has been developed up to this point a lot. But I think in the days of Atlantis, which I do relate to, I believe that we've returned to a time that's very much like the days of Atlantis, and that we're in Atlantis. One of the reasons they go down to Antarctica is to see what it was like during Atlantis when beings from other planets walked among humans very naturally, and we all occupied the earth together. And so this is another time when I think we're going to be approaching that, if we can make it through these very trying times where they're trying to convert us from carbon life forms into, as I say, cyborgs and androids. Assuming we do survive this and are able to make it beyond that, I think if you decide you want to be a cyborg or want to have more android kind of qualities, you can. It's not, but again, it has to be pure choice on the part of the being. But, I think that we're approaching these really amazing times that were Atlantean in the past.
Right. And this has just had feelings and different things. It's kind of come to you over time. And it's great that you can experience this stuff and be able to share it out. And the one thing potentially they always, I kind of see Atlantis to a degree as those like utopian technological society. And that's the one part that you're bringing up is what's different now is every possible thing is monetized for all the energy that we can create from nothing, from all the different stuff that kind of comes together that, if you want to call it, it brings us to a certain level of enslavement for, the people in control.
Yes, well, it has in the past, but I think we're entering a new time. I think the more you open up to the possibilities of a positive future, the more we can attract that to us. And so I think that's really important. I see a lot of people lately limiting their futures on purpose for some reason, maybe it serves them and, in some way. But actually, I need to go because
absolutely.
I know this has gone on for a while. I don't know how long
it's been for an hour and 35.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being here tonight. If there's anyone who's in the chat who's been watching and you like the show, if you could do me a favor, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Kerry, you've been a phenomenal guest here and everything. We've talked about a lot of different cool stuff. I love getting into the ability to talk about, ancient Egypt, your spirituality, and different ways you see consciousness and everything. In addition to going ahead and, if you want to call it, talking a bit about disclosure and ET and all of the stuff that brings it together. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Yeah.
Thank you for your good questions. And thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
This has been our biggest audience we've ever had. That always happens where you kind of go around. You have a lot of great followers and people love you, and it's clear on that. We had some trolls in the chat room here and there that popped up, and it happens everywhere, but I just kind of shoot them away, and they came back again. I shoot them away again. It's just, I like to have everyone treated fairly and just being able to, let people and think this is a safe place to talking about stuff. And I'm actually glad we were able to talk about some of the C and the V and some of the things that are going on outside of the world, because it's really important for people to open their eyes, look past the mass media, check out Kerry's website. If not, search for it on YouTube. The videos are there, the trauma, what's going on, the people pushing back, it's there. And it's all important to think, there's something really going on that the mass media is just programmed in not to be acting this way, but there's a lot of really smart people who are questioning things, and it's all up to you to go ahead and make the right choices. Kerry, again, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Take care, guys.
Good night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Go ahead and let her go. Oh, why? Wow. That was a great conversation. Kerry has a good effect on stuff. I don't know what the heck happened with YouTube here tonight, Greg. It's like we were up to 855 subscriptions, and then poof, we're back to 829. I'm not sure if that had to do something with some of the people not liking what Kerry was doing, but I like to bring a broad amount of guests and different people, whether it's on here or inviting the phenomena to talk about their particular experiences. And some people may be like Captain Ron, who they're bringing it up, and the guy is in prison, which she did bring it up. She's not hiding, and this is a person who talked about the secret space program. And if you notice, I didn't go down that particular rabbit hole where I could, because there's some just different areas in it where it just doesn't align in some of the areas where I'm at. That's why we focused on talking to Kerry about ancient Egypt. And it's great to hear, Greg, that she knew Carmen Bolter from an Egyptologist. And if anyone out there doesn't know about Carmen, she's a phenomenal person. And gosh, if we can get her for a guest on here, I've asked her before, we haven't been able to get anywhere, but maybe now, since she's been hanging out with Kerry, we might be able to get Carmen to come on. And yeah, the treasure room that they found in what is it, in Egypt, was not in Egypt, in ancient Turkey, that has all these different pieces. I didn't have the actual pictures, but we'll cover that on an upcoming episode of UAP Disclosure tonight, because there is kind of this ET connection with Akhenaten, with his wife Nefertiti, not necessarily the son who they're showing as his son, because, you know, what's the old saying, if the glove don't fit, you can't acquit. Well, if his mom and dad both had elongated skulls, right? Why wouldn't their son have an elongated skull, right? So there's something to saying that Akhenaten's wife, Nefertiti, were part of an ancient race, probably Atlanteans. You know, there weren't just necessarily humans. The website was projectcamelot.com. That's Kerry's website.
Tons of stuff there. Tons of stuff.
Yeah, tons of stuff. Absolutely. And if there's some stuff you like, there's some stuff that you don't like. Jack Hatfield is asking if we want to get viewer call in. Okay. In the chat right now. Anyone want to stop in and replace the pinned message? I pinned up at the top of the chat. If someone like Jeff or someone else wants to come in and talk about it, come on in, or whoever else. And there was a question, wasn't head binding a thing for people did in ancient Egypt? Yes, Gold Cat, I'm making you a moderator. Please subscribe. But they're in the skulls that they found for the people that have elongated skulls. There are a lot of people who actually the bone thickness is different. It's more dense. The spot where the neck comes in line with the actual skull itself is in a different place with different structures. And more importantly, there's a sagittal suture that every human being in this world has that they didn't have. So it was different in size and shape. It was different in genetic structure. It was different in composition. So it's kind of like, is it the same as a human? No. Is it, if a human were to go ahead and bind the kid's head, because I'm sure you've all seen the picture of the baby getting bound with its eyes popping out of its head. You know, that's something they actually did, but it was to mimic the gods who used to be around. And it was a practice that people did to try and do mimicry, to kind of look at some of this stuff. So, yeah, the whole bit of ancient aliens and let's say,
I want to ask her about crop circles.
Oh, Jeff popped in. Go ahead. Are you finished? And Jeff's coming in anyway. So you were saying, Greg?
Oh, no, I was just saying I want to talk to her about crop circles.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk on crop circles. How's it going, Jeff?
Great. How you guys doing? Good to see you.
Great show tonight. We have a great audience. We had like 250,
Definitely.
260 people in the show. We've still got a bunch of people hanging out right now as we're going and talking this. We still have 198 people. Hopefully they are enjoying the conversation. Let's see. Where else did you see the stuff they found? The pyramids and the tombs, the jewels and the crowns. That wasn't in the UK mystery on. That was in Turkey. So if you search Turkey, Egyptian, and you should be able to find it, or with Nefertiti, there will be a whole bunch of web pages that should be out there where we'll have all the different images and everything. It's a phenomenal find. I think that was back in, wasn't 2018 or 2019, Jeff?
Yeah, it was recent, and man, it was so pristine.
Oh yeah,
that was what was amazed me.
It's all the stuff in Egypt that you never see.
Yeah. And
So-
and there's so many people out there putting out some great content about ancient monoliths, ancient sites. Even down in Peru. Oh, I forget his name. I follow him on Instagram. Brian Forrester.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you follow Brian Forrester, he posts some amazing things.
He's the expert on the elongated skulls. And they've actually been doing DNA stuff and everything on it and testing.
Yes. And I was trying to, there was one snippet of information I found regarding that, and I don't want to take it too far off topic, but
go ahead.
Where the elongated skull DNA actually came back Rh negative. I haven't been able to confirm that, but you know the possibilities of Rh negative blood.
It doesn't belong.
So I found that to be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Let's see, Egyptian. Let's see if I can find the pictures here. Tomb. Actually had a jump off of.
Greg, you had some great questions tonight, by the way, man.
Yeah, he saved
thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother.
Yeah, really good stuff.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Jeff.
Let me see if I can
that was a
find
great
it.
conversation.
Yeah, and again, she covers a bunch of different things and a bunch of different topics. And I know we had Steve. I forget Steve's last name. I blocked him twice. He was kind of coming across strong, and I don't want to have a protest. I really don't. And if some people don't like the show, then it's up to everybody to go ahead and just change the channel on the television set. But if you notice, that's why I strategically kept the conversation in different areas where I knew it was a great conversation to really because she has so much experience in so many different areas. It's just being able to find it out and to understand the greater person.
Yeah, I agree. And she seems really knowledgeable. I was at her website earlier, and you're right. The plethora of topics that she's covered in her career is impressive. She doesn't pigeonhole herself to just one thing,
Yeah.
She ain't scared. No.
Yeah, she seems to have different approaches. I don't know. I like her. I think it's interesting. I'm going to check her out more because I wasn't overly familiar with her before tonight's interview. So I'm definitely going to be checking her out more, Oh,
there it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's were you a fan of Project Camelot at all?
No, not really. That's why I'm saying I got to dive into it more. It was
it's pretty
one
rad.
of those little surface things.
Cool. Listen, Thomas, I want to say thank you. I got to get rolling, but thank you so much for bringing us all together. And Jeff, always good to see you, brother.
Oh, you too, Greg.
Okay, I'll talk to you guys
soon.
Peace.
Have a good night.
Yeah. Now, Jeff, good night, Greg. You've been covering, and to follow up on a conversation we had, moderator. So you actually have been writing an article lately that you've gotten out, and this is follow-up to our last conversation about the different radar sites that are being built. Is it for the Air Force down in Florida?
Yes. There's one. I got involved in it back in March, and I work in Florida for a local building department in Pasco County, and we have a large coastal area.
What's your website again?
Side. My blog is thejolt.net.
That's it.
Yeah. So what's interesting is right on the Gulf, and it's like right there by Anclote Key, which is a high tourist area, high boating traffic. It's a really nice area for all the local people to hang out. But the U.S. Air Force is leasing land from Duke Energy that's right on the coast, and they're building a new telemetry site. Right. And it's a 100-foot tower. Right. It's got a 30-foot dome. It's got a bunch of auxiliary
bring
towers.
up a picture of that right now. Share on screen, window, and here's your sites. Thejolt.net. Be sure to check it out. Bring it up a little bit larger. And this is just if you want to call it the landing page that we're coming into. And this is kind of what you're
and if you go to that's part
right?
2. Yeah, that's part 2.
Where's part 1 at?
Well, let's go to part 2. Part 2 is actually more interesting. I'll give you a quick synopsis of part 1. What you see there on that picture right there is exactly what they're building in Florida. That's not the actual one, okay? But that is what it looks like. It's a big radar dome. Now, click on part 2 because let me finish telling you my story. So I had a preliminary meeting with the project engineer. for this. And when he was first showing me the preliminary plans via WebEx, I was looking at it and I was like, wow, that's some pretty hefty equipment. And I said to him, half jokingly, I said, that must be for monitoring all the UAP and UFO activity that we've had around our coasts. And he goes, you got it. And he said, and then very matter-of-factly, and then he said, and if you're interested in that topic, you'll be interested to know that it's being manned and operated by Eglin Air Force Base. Which is up and not MacDill. Now, MacDill Air Force Base is just south of me, right at the mouth of the Tampa Bay, and happens to be Central Command, right? But they weren't involved in this radar site. It was by Eglin, which is a huge Air Force base up in the Panhandle. It's like 650 acres or something like that. I forget how big it is. It's really, really huge. Anyway, so that was interesting, and again, was he joking with me? Was he, pulling my leg? I honestly don't think so, because of the way he matter-of-factly just said it. Now, in part two, what I discovered is I knew that this particular project was called an RT&T test site. And so I started to look up what the acronym meant, the RT&T. It stands for a company, Reliance Test and Technology. And it turns out that that company just formed in 2015. And then in less than a year later, in 2016, this company got awarded this huge contract for the Eglin Air Force Base. There's a huge area in the Gulf that's a test and development site, and also to monitor areas at the National Radar Cross Section site up at White Sands. And they just got awarded this contract like 9 months after they developed. But when you start digging into there's two conglomerate companies that formed this company who have been entrenched in the military forever. One of them does all of the quality control and a lot of the development and engineering at Los Alamos. Another one does a lot of stuff at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And all of a sudden, boom, they come together in 2015, 2016, they get this huge contract, and they're really expanding the whole Eglin test area off the coast of Florida to actually accommodate the entire peninsula, and not just like the first 25% of it like it used to be. Now, here's the interesting part. 2016, they won this contract. So all along the coast of Florida, they're building 4 of those radar sites, from all the way down in the Keys to all the way up in the Panhandle. Ours is the center one at Anclote Key. To monitor all this activity in the Gulf, testing, weapons development, electronic warfare development. One of the tests they're going to be doing is for drone swarm testing. But now let's fast forward a little bit. This same company that was developed, what seemed to be just for this particular contract, conveniently in 2020 got awarded a contract with the U.S. Navy to monitor and to do the same thing they're doing for Eglin with the U.S. Navy's naval air development. And guess where? Virginia and California. So now let's step back and look at the big picture of these 3 videos that were released in 2017, right? The Nimitz happened in 2004, where? Off the coast of California. You have the Go Fast, which was off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. And then you have the Gimbal, which was off the coast of Virginia. And here's this company, now, if you look at these pictures you're showing, the company that is going to be manning all of these telemetry sites on the coast. You see all those little red stars? Those are all the telemetry sites, and all of these test operations are going to be designed, implemented, and operated, managed, and manned by RT&T, this company. It's very interesting. And now this company is going to be doing the same thing in Virginia and the same thing in California for the U.S. Navy. And they're very well connected. So that's pretty much the gist. Sorry, you were muted, Thomas.
I'm just going to say here, I believe there's something, you know, similar to what this telemetry is what I'm seeing here. War zone, to get to the war zone.
Oh, and here's the other thing that made me think. So if what they're doing, you know, and you always got to remember when you're dealing with the military, when you see the overt like this, that's just a byproduct of the covert.
Yeah. What I want to show is we've got that one similarity of that one piece that was on the front, the new telemetry piece, right? With the disc up there and everything. They've got this new stuff. They have something new that was just added to the front of all of our carriers that are stationed in San Diego. They have all the F-35s. Where did that go when I made it bigger? Probably further down. Wait, it's right around here. Next image or so down. Here we go. Something kind of new electronic warfare, but I'm just seeing that similar shape that was in that, you know, that round disc kind of a thing. And they're not sure if it's a warfare system. There was all a certain spot where they had put it on the carriers and they had to go ahead and deal with something in redesign of the line that goes from the deck down to the water line. And there's enough of these around the entire surrounding of the ship that gives a perfect bubble of coverage for whatever they've got going here. So maybe that's to deal with UAPs or something. But just when I had seen a similarity kind of, you know, take part of that, put it in a device that you can now go ahead and push in one direction. That's for use for going 360. But what they have is for more of a directional piece.
Yeah. And it looks exactly that for the individual vessel.
Yeah.
If someone wants to read deeper and they go to the jolt.net and check out that article, everything's linked. So if you want to look at the websites of all of these subsidiary companies and the test sites that they're into, it's all linked. You can dig as deep as you want. But the key thing here is after I got done really researching this and I'm going, this is a very interesting, little puzzle. I remembered what Lou Elizondo said. And I think Jeremy Corbell even alluded to it at one point.
Right.
Where they said that the Navy was actually going back out to these areas on purpose to see if they can, poke the nest, so to speak.
Well,
or entice activity.
Because here's the thing. When I heard about the triangle-shaped UFOs that were flying, that were swarming, that's how they described it. They were swarming the destroyer, the carrier group. The question I have to ask is, what the hell did you do to cause them to come and swarm the ships? What did you do? Poke, it's kind of, I always have a kind of analogy of, beating the hornet's nest with a broomstick and running. Maybe other people around you aren't going to realize it and they're going to get stung for shit. But the thing is, you do it and you get out of there before the swarm comes and finds you. But it sounds like they purposefully did something. And that's been my biggest question is, what did they do? Why were they coming in that manner? Why did you flesh them out from where they're at? There's something much bigger to it.
Yeah, exactly. And so now that you've mentioned that, just add that to this piece that I found. Yes, now we're actually. I mean, you saw on that map the expanse of their.
Let me bring it up right now.
Test center. Now I live there on the coast of Florida. That whole area is just full of boats. It's all full of planes.
Right. So where are they putting this thing at?
Commercial fishermen.
Are they putting it in the middle of the Gulf?
No. They're on the coast. They're right along the coast. So if you look at the map on the right,
these two red dots
right there. That's the one where I'm at. Yes.
Here I got it even
but
larger.
The whole field. Yeah,
it's as big as it's going to get.
It's as big as it's going to get, but it doesn't matter because what I want to show is that whole black outline that encompasses all those other areas inside. That's the entire test site. But look what it was previously to the left. Look at all that internal activity. Now look at it. It goes all the way down almost to Cuba. So what's going to happen to all the boat traffic that usually goes through there?
That's a big zone of traffic. Boat traffic isn't going to be allowed in
air traffic. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the Gulf.
Yeah, I know. And they're talking what they're categorizing all those test lanes are is for different types of.
Keep on describing it. If you see me disappear, I'm still listening. I just have to let the dog outside before there's an accident.
No problem. I got more. I can keep chatting. So for those still listening, it's interesting. And the big takeaway, though, is that the company that got the contract to do all of that and to develop the systems, develop the test protocols, it's a company that was formed relatively quick by two entrenched military subcontractors that have been working for decades in very lucrative areas, and they now just won a contract with the Navy, Naval Air, to do the similar types of things in Virginia and California. And so to me, it says to me that they're ramping up new technologies, new strategies, and they want to implement it in these areas where they've had the UFO hotspots. That's what it says to me.
Yeah.
And that also says that our modern military really does not know what this is. So if we do in fact have alien craft or exotic craft with exotic bodies from 1947 and the 50s, most of the people in our modern military, I don't think know about it. I think it's very deeply embedded in a black box that only a very few elitists have access to. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that there's a battle there. And I think that's sorry, I don't mean to keep going off on a tangent.
No, that's fine.
Just a few days ago, I read an article and Thomas, you probably saw this too, where Christopher Mellon had a meeting with the IG, the Internal General.
I haven't heard of when was this?
Just this week.
I didn't hear about that. Wow.
Yeah, or was it the end of last week? It was recent, and he and Lou Elizondo are behind the scenes pushing for these congressional hearings. That's the only way they're going to be able to break through, if at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could just reach out there, I'm not sure what percentage of people of here have subscribed to the channel. If you could please take a moment and go ahead and smash that subscribe button, or if you have subscribed, if you can hit that bell and turn on all notifications, that way you can find out when I'm going to be going live, which is seeming to be more days than not these days. It seems that there's a great time slot or an opportunity after a GUFON, as long as I'm not going and stepping on other people's toes, like Alien Scientist, potentially he goes on Friday nights, and I do need some times off, but I'm going to try and be streaming a bit more often and having people like Jeff on and everything, because there's a lot of great people out there doing a lot of great research, and you only have so much time to be able to put different kinds of time in for going and doing things. And if my part is being a voice as much as I can and finding great people like Jeff or Greg who's on, or Rob would normally be here, but he had done some stuff to help a relative out yesterday and he's in a lot of pain tonight. So I wish you the best, Rob, and I hope everything goes fine for you and you're feeling better tonight. We really did miss you, because you really do make a difference for us. And don't ever feel that because we may get opinions in some different areas, everybody has an opinion on everything. Wait a minute. Insecure Team 10 is here. Not Secure Team, but Insecure Team 10. I've had his comment up for a bit. Insecure Team 10, you're a moderator. If you could do me a favor, go ahead and smash that like button and become if you could subscribe, we'd really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, just to build on Rob for a little bit, for those who are new to Thomas's show, I'm fairly new myself, but Rob, if you enjoyed tonight's conversation talking about the ancient history, the ancient cultures, wait till you hear Rob. He will blow your mind.
Yeah, and we need to get Rob and Andrew back from Ancient History Criticisms again, because there's such, if you want to call it, advanced knowledge and documented pictures and a lot of different stuff that's out there that really goes and shows you that we have been around and we have been highly technical, we have been highly advanced a much longer period of time than we realize. The thing is, with mankind, there's a cyclical happening of catastrophes that they call catastrophism. There's a book called The Adam and Eve Story by Chan Thomas. Everybody check it out. You can find it for free on the internet. It talks about the history of catastrophisms and different things went on. But back in the day when he wrote it and was released, it was actually taken off the press and the books were yanked by the CIA. And when it was finally re-released from them many years later, a lot of sections of the book were actually removed. So the original script is out there. Go ahead and find it and read it, because if the Earth does go through a cycle where you have the sun going in this birth cycle every 12,000 or 24,000 years, where something big happens, the Earth gets in a state and the oceans roar up, and you get all these tidal waves that go everywhere and sweep across the continents. And trust me, I've had Nostradamus here has seen this too many times from too many places for it not to be there. And where, you know, it happens something to coincide with the flipping of the poles. And if you go to the point on the planet where the poles are projected to flip and you go 1,690 feet below water, there's something that looks like giant characters written in the bottom, like there's this giant message that's there. So if, you know, imagine where we're at today, Jeff, and if a catastrophe hits, and then from there, we actually go ahead and all of our technology is wiped out. All of our digital stuff is wiped out. All of our ability to create machines and all the stuff doesn't work anymore because there's only a small population of humans left. How long is it going to take for those who have the knowledge to actually lose it?
Not long.
A generation or two at most.
Yeah,
and then
it
talks about magic and these different time frames we have, because I mean, even like some stuff back that they call from the ancient Roman days that they have no idea what it was. They found advanced surgical tools for doing operations to remove corneas from eyes, you know, super micro, you know, if you want to call it high precision manufacturing for this stuff. So it's not just the stuff we've seen in Egypt. It's not the stuff just in Peru or all around the world with the nubs. There's a bunch of different layers of evidence that are there that if they don't meet the core, if you want to call it, prescribed method of this is what history is, this is what it can be. You've got Zwahi Hamas or Hawass from Egypt, and everything is all from 3,000 years ago, and anything else that he'd find, everything would be disqualified or hidden away or locked away where no one could actually look at the stuff and figure out what we were dealing with. Different parts of Egypt that we should have been doing research on in large groups has been, no, I don't believe it. You know, I don't believe in radar. I don't believe in X-rays. I don't believe in all these different technologies that are there that can actually go ahead and give us the answers we want, because in that case, they're trying to go ahead and keep away the knowledge. And this is the kind of stuff that Rob gets into, I get into. You know, we've been covering a lot of stuff with disclosure, but there's more than disclosure, you know, I call it UAP disclosure, but there's ancient UAP because there's the ancient Vimanas and even the ancient stone structures they have in Peru, Jeff, where it's those giant rocks that are one next to the other, next to the other. They have these areas of these brass inlays that are melted and put in there. And it's not to hold them together, but it's to create continuity between the rocks.
Exactly.
So if you've got an energy weapon or something hitting these structures, it's going to go ahead, hit it and disperse it, versus that one particular block by itself taking the full, you know, taking the full hit. I mean, we've got these underground cities in Turkey that are they're huge. We're 20, 30,000 people. And that's one of them can go ahead and, if you want to call it, live in. And it's like, we've got this, you look at some of these things or where they're built into the rock or they're built into the different stuff. And it's really high technology. You have to wonder, you know, what were they hiding from? What were they creating this stuff for? It wasn't to get away from other man or other civilizations. A lot of it was to deal with what's happening from the sun, what's happening from the universe that comes into our planet. It's all connected. If you want,
it's all cyclic. And it's all cyclic, and it happens over and over. And what's interesting too, when you talk about the ancient history, it's not just, you know, like and how it's skewed by my, you know, there's such a almost like a little monopoly of historical fact, like you said, where they want to try to squash anything that's against the mainstream dogma. You know,
speaking of dogmas, I have a dog to let in here, so keep on talking.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah, you got it. But when you study the ancient history and you see some of these advancements, like in Egypt, you know, when you really start to look at the big picture and take like a 30,000 foot view of ancient history, you're going to see that these increases in architectural capabilities, mathematical capabilities, astronomical capabilities, all started to happen around the same time, but around the entire planet, not just isolated to the Middle East and the Mesopotamia. I mean, it's happened in Western China or in Western Asia. It's happened in areas like Cambodia and Vietnam, and it's happened in Mesoamerica and in South America, like Peru. There's a lot of stuff in Peru and Brazil. So you can find these advancements all over the planet, almost during the same time periods. And to me, that's quite telling. But you don't really get that big picture when you hear these people talking at the collegiate level, I guess you can say, when they're teaching these courses.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes down to, if they find evidence that goes outside of the accepted timeframes of finding modern humans or different things to a degree, they're going to discount it, and they're going to go ahead and basically throw any of the results out the window, because they're afraid if they put their name on it or different things to a degree, it's going to go ahead and they're going to be tarnished and blacklisted. So you actually have these great scientists who are actually having this kind of stuff happen to them, which is just kind of sad. But at least, it's. Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot less of it, though, with today's social media capabilities. You see people. I follow, archaeologists. I follow anthropologists on Instagram, and they're just out there in the field doing their job, doing their discoveries, and posting and sharing. And it's like everything else in our society. These pillars, these dogmatic pillars, are kind of being chipped away at. So, and I think that's a good thing, because it helps to expand the knowledge, and expand our consciousness, which I think is the ultimate goal for everybody.
Yeah, I've got Insecure 10 going and flooding the chat with a whole bunch of unnecessaries, and I saw it happening, and I just wanted, let's keep the chat together and keep everything happy, and no name calling and all that kind of stuff. And hey, I've been called Uncle Fester many times in my days, and I trust me, I've been called a lot worse things. So I've got a what do you call it? I've got a thick skin in many different ways. So,
well, gotta ignore the kids sometimes.
Yeah. All right. And let's not name call other streamers and everything else. And love you too, Insecure Team 10. Let's just not be going against other streamers, because there's a lot of people here who go to many different streams, and we have, just like we respect when we're bringing different guests in, we have to do the same for our audience to a degree, at least.
Well said. Well said.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All righty. That was good. That was a great show. So do you have any other interviews coming up that you can talk about?
Nothing yet right now. Kerry was just kind of someone who I had interviewed in the past at the UFO Man channel, and it was great having her on then. And I know usually she has a great halo effect and trying to help get subscribers and everything that comes along. And it's it had a good effect. It was really weird. We had 255 subs, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we had 25 or 20. It was like 20 something taken away.
Yeah, I was listening. That's odd. But you know what, though? I've heard from other channels that I've been watching, and people posting, in other areas, that they've had the same sort of YouTube algorithmic issues, and where the same thing was happening.
But so I saw it again last week, where the subs went up to a certain number, and all of a sudden, boom, they pull back again. And it just doesn't make sense unless they're trying to pull it back and then go ahead because they saw too many people subscribing from the stream, and they potentially think it's nefarious or something. So they go ahead and kind of reset the stuff back. But these are real people who are subscribing and trying to come in and be part of the channel. So yeah. I guess it's YouTube, and I actually did a support ticket, and I said, "What the hell?" It got up to this number, and all of a sudden it pulled back. I want to know what happened.
That's very good. Very good that you can do that.
The system should show it, because I saw it as a slow, gradual amount of subscriptions over a period of time.
Now, when you go back and watch this, when you go back and watch this, will it show?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't give a
Okay.
live count as things are going on.
You're just you're in the analytics.
I'm looking at the analytics live from YouTube, and it gives you a chart and shows as subs are coming in and numbers are rolling up. And usually that number goes ahead and links up with the other things that we see that's out there. But either way, yeah, let me do this before I go on for too long and bore everybody out and chase them away so they don't want to come back. I know I had this on a little bit more. It's kind of getting there a little bit. So let me go ahead here and then turn off echo cancellation. You're going to hear an echo for a little bit there. Jeff, but just bear with me for a second. I want to go ahead and throw some shout outs to everyone who came in the chat. It's been a phenomenal time. We've had a record number of people coming in here tonight. X1, thanks for coming out. Hopefully we'll see you when you come by in a couple weeks. Ocean Odell, thanks. Hopefully you're a subscriber. It's great having you here, and I'm glad you like stuff with Kerry. She wasn't for everybody, but that's where it's great. There's so much content on YouTube. If there's something you don't like, there's something else to go ahead and watch. And we've got Nothing is Safe When Awake. Welcome. Great having you here tonight. Thanks for coming to the show. Jack Hatfield, of course. A little bit of drama going on tonight, but I'm glad we're past it. We've got Mr. Eon, or Eon. Yeah, we still need to go ahead and connect, and we've gotten, I'll track you down on Twitter. There's other stuff we have to talk about, especially about Billy Myers and some other fun stuff. Ocean Odell, thanks for being here. Who else do I have? Alan Kistler. Thanks for being here tonight. It's great having you here. IR Film, Helen Crystal Energy. Thank you. Dorothy Lang. I appreciate you coming on out. Insecure Team 10. Thanks for being around. You had some funny things to say. Some other things are a little bit, trying to poke fun at people. Let's try and stay away from that and just have fun, and we'll all all feel a lot better. Alan Kistler, another great person. Felicia Flores. I'm not sure if I said Jen Moore was here. There's Dorothy. There's Toto, Alan Kistler. But more importantly, we also have Mr. Catfish 2100, Paul Cargo, Bob M. He's in here somewhere. Appreciate it. And more importantly, Jeff, thanks for being here tonight, my friend. I appreciate Greg. Greg, you're out there somewhere. You're no longer here off in the back room. But thanks for being here also. We will go ahead, Jeff, hang out for a second. We will catch you on the flip side. Good night, everybody. It was great having everybody. Take care now. Bye. See ya.